field. That's got carry. It's gone. Number 500 and history for Miguel Cabrera.
Bottom line is, man, it's hard to break us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Open look going as he hits it. What a play called by Tom Izzo in that timeout.
I was 7 years old watching a football game by myself, and I saw those winged helmets come out of the tunnel, and I was hooked at that point.
Kane in Chicago. Oh, my God.
Kane with the overtime winner. Jameer Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
He drives, lobs to JD for a jam.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6'6" Kane Cunningham. Jameson Williams, he's got it. Touchdown, Lions. Now it's Larkin with a burst of speed. He scores. Gives the United States the lead for the first time tonight.
Man, how appropriate is that? Seriously. How great of a call is that leading into a day after which Dylan Larkin scored his first Olympic goal? Welcome, everybody, on a Tullymore Thursday. Glad you're with us. Have you ever been more proud of a hockey team? You'd have to go back a ways, right? I'm talking about from a national pride standpoint. Sure. From a local standpoint, hey, you got 4 cups in an 11-year span. You were really proud. 1980, if you can recall back that far, sure, you were really proud. Maybe there was that proud moment in the Four Nations face-off last year when the U.S. beat Canada for the first time. Okay, that might have been a really proud moment. But this one last night, against Sweden in overtime, and the Michiganders that are associated with it. Welcome to X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan. I'm Matt Shepard. Trent Balley's with us as well. Let's talk about it, okay? On the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. The text line, Sports Radio 21,000. Feel free to chime in and ask and deliver and carve out an opinion of anything that you may want to discuss. So Team USA into the semifinals, thanks to that 2-1 win. It's their first Olympic win over Sweden since 1960. I said that to somebody yesterday. They said, no, that's not true. They beat him in 1980. I said, no, they didn't. They tied him. No, they beat him. No, they tied him 2-2. Anyway, Quinn Hughes. And that's the game winner at the 3:27 mark of the extra session. Did you see the time on ice for him? It wasn't even close. Over 27 and a half minutes. I've said this about Quinn Hughes when he was traded from Vancouver to Minnesota, and how I wanted him to become a Red Wing, but I don't blame Steve Yzerman whatsoever for not trading for him because he wouldn't sign the extension. If you got him to sign the extension, it would have been a brilliant move. Quinn Hughes is the second best defenseman in the world, my opinion. There's a lot of really good ones. I know Victor Hedman's a really good player, okay? Number 1 is Ken McCarr. Plays for Team Canada, plays for Colorado. McCarr, Quinn Hughes. I love Zach Werenski. If you could go get a player, if you're the Red Wings, either Quinn Hughes or Zach Werenski, top line D, moves the puck unbelievably well, plays a ton of minutes, plays in every situation, excellent at angles. It reminds you, this is dangerous. I'm not trying to compare the two, but from the way they play, the style in which they play reminds you a little bit of Nick Lidstrom. Because of how they play the angles and how they're so good at the little things. They don't have to be physical. You don't have to be Chris Pronger to be a great defenseman. You can play the way Nick Lidstrom played. That's why they called him the perfect human. Quinn Hughes plays that style of game. He's got 6 points in 4 games. Dylan Larkin, as I mentioned, scored in regulation, his first Olympic goal. What he did there, he won the faceoff, in which he's won, 83% of the faceoffs, which is a sick number. No one's even close to that. Vinny Trocheck is second with 68%. So he wins the faceoff. Jack Hughes grabs it, or Quinn Hughes grabs it, feeds Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes shoots from the high slot, and it's deflected in by Dylan Larkin. Phenomenal stuff. Connor Hellebuck, Michigander, steered aside 28 shots for the win. So the U.S. now ready for Slovakia tomorrow. They advanced, the Slovaks behind a 6-2 win over Germany. And you had 3 of the 4 games yesterday go into overtime. So here's the Olympic Final Four, if you will. USA, Canada, Slovakia, Finland. Canada will play Finland. U.S. plays Slovakia. Same countries as the 2010 Vancouver Olympic Final Four. You had not had anything close to this. It's crazy. Nothing was even close to this in terms of overtimes. You had 3 overtime games yesterday. 3 of them. And that has never happened before in Olympic competition. Pretty cool stuff. The impact that Dylan Larkin has made. Now, yesterday, I think I told you there was a podcast. The Tkachuk brothers have a podcast. And it's actually pretty good. I don't know if you've ever listened to it. It's actually really good. And they were talking about Dylan Larkin earlier in the year. And they're talking about the impact and how this was off the Four Nations tournament and the impact that he made, and the guy they maybe didn't know as much about, and he's really impressed them. Brady Tkachuk, after the game, said this: Larkin is always showing up in big moments. He's always the X factor. He's playing on the penalty kill. He's a great 5-on-5 player, scored a big goal for us. He's a fantastic player. What do I always say? I always say, if pros can say something and recognize how good you are, considering how good they are, how many great players they've played with or played against, then you know you've arrived. So much is made, and I like the Tkachuk brothers. I know I might be in the minority, though. But somebody had tweeted out yesterday that even though they're really good players, when you talk to people around the team and when you talk to certain players, the heart of the United States hockey team is Dylan Larkin. That's high praise, man. It is so cool. Quinn Hughes, by the way, becomes the second American defenseman to record at least 2 multi-point games in a single Winter Olympics with NHL players. The other was Brian Rafalski. He had 3 games back in 2010. Love what's going on, man. It is so cool. I know it's Olympic competition. Everybody's got national pride. The U.S. is 3rd in medals with 24. Norway, I think, is 1st with 33. Is that right? I believe so. Anyway, you're watching that game yesterday. Don't tell me there wasn't a fist pump. Suddenly, everybody becomes hockey fans when it comes to the Olympics. In the Four Nations tournament, everybody became hockey fans, which is awesome. Okay. Like I said, before Wednesday, there had never been more than 1 Olympic hockey game that needed overtime to decide the outcome. And Wednesday, there were 3 of them. Now you get more hockey today because the women play for gold this afternoon against Canada. And they have been a dominating force. Can't wait for that. Pistons are back to work tonight in New York to take on the Knicks. Detroit has dominated the first 2 meetings. An interesting comment from JB Bickerstaff about one specific Piston. We'll get to that coming up. We want your thoughts on the U.S.'s win over Sweden yesterday. We got the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. We've got some Lions discussion to talk about too, like who maybe fits this team. And we're going to talk with Greg Wyshynski of ESPN at 8:35 here on X's and Bros. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to the conversation with you on a Tully Moore Thursday on X's and Bros after this.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLionsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join the Grand Rapids Griffins and Van Andel Institute for the Purple Community Game, which is coming up on March 13th in downtown Grand Rapids. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute. And you'll have a chance to bid on limited edition Purple Griffins jerseys. You can learn more at vai.org/events.
Hey, when you travel, you want low fares, you want reliable service, and you want a direct flight. Avelo Air gives you all of that and more. Avelo Air has direct flights to take Tigers fans to spring training in Lakeland. Avelo Air will take you from Grand Rapids to Lakeland directly on Thursdays and Sundays. They will take you directly from Detroit to Lakeland on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You literally land 20 minutes from the ballpark. You don't have to wait in lines. You don't have to worry about any of that other hassle. This is hassle-free travel like you deserve. Go to AveloAir.com and get $20 off a base fare round-trip flight to Lakeland when you book your trip by March 31st. All you have to do is use the code HUGE, that's HUGE, on AveloAir.com. Restrictions do apply. See AveloAir.com for details today.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
Yeah, just a relief. Just really enjoying being here with this group and the guys, and it's the greatest country in the world. So happy to represent it here with these guys, and it's really special.
Does that make you even more proud? It does me. Quinn Hughes after the game. Not that everybody's out to get you. Not that everybody is out to send you some type of question that they can quickly turn around and create a buzz on social media. But there seems to be a lot of questions, especially from The Athletic, about whether or not the American athletes are proud to be there. Why you would answer any other way, I don't know. But Quinn Hughes answered it perfectly. And that's the one that will be used by those who are proud that this country stands for what it does. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. We're brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth here across the great state of Michigan. Do want to get into some football discussion, but would love to keep what's going on in hockey around a little bit longer. It's amazing how many people, NBC, I think for the most part, does a pretty damn good job of it. I love that they got Brian Boucher between the benches. They've got Eddie Olchuk. They've got Kenny Albert. And Olchuk gives really good insight. That's why he's their number one analyst in all of hockey, I would guess. I would love to see. I mean, we've had some pretty good hockey guys on in the past on our show, and they're really, really good at what they do. But overall, I think NBC has done a really nice job with it. Had some production faux pas yesterday on a few things, but overall, really good stuff. Love the various replays that they've got. What they picked up on the Quinn Hughes game-winning goal was he waved off Mike Sullivan or whoever. I forget. I don't know if it's John Tortorella. I don't know who was telling him to come to the bench. He waved them off. He stayed on the ice because he was at the end of his shift. And then he buried the game winner. Why this has not been picked up much, I don't know. A lot has been made of the Tkachuk brothers, and for good reason. Okay, I talked about this yesterday. There's some people who say, there are other storylines other than them. Yeah, and they've been hitting them a little bit. The Tkachuk brothers are front and center because, one of them's got 2 rings. The other one dropped the gloves pretty quick in the Four Nations tournament and was against Canada to let them know the U.S. is there. He also scored the first goal for Team USA in the Olympics this year. And their father is one of the greatest American-born hockey players in history. So there's something there. I think they're kind of overlooking the Hughes brothers connection. And I don't know why they haven't done more stories on that. Jack Hughes is exceptionally gifted. Quinn Hughes, as I've mentioned, one of the best defensemen in the world. And, of course, they have another brother who plays for New Jersey, and they've got another brother coming up who plays at the University of Michigan. That's how good they are. That's how, it's like the Stahl brothers. It's not quite the Sutter brothers who had 7 playing the NHL. I know, that's unbelievable, isn't it? But it's a great story when it comes to that. I don't know what it takes to get more recognition than that. It's strange how we gravitate towards certain stories. And I suppose it has to do with the sport. That could be part of it. Just because even though we celebrate 1980 and we celebrate a certain number of things, and the Stanley Cup becomes really important in the middle of the summer, we still haven't totally embraced hockey the way you might think a nation could. Maybe it's because we have so many other things. Meaning, with all due respect to our friends up north, Canada, it's not like football is a really big deal there. They have one baseball team. for the entire country. A Major League Baseball team. They have some minor league teams, right? Okay. And from a basketball standpoint, they've got one basketball team. They used to have two, but the Vancouver Grizzlies are no longer. So they've got one basketball team. They've got plenty of hockey teams, both at the NHL level and at the major junior level and at the AHL level. There's plenty of professional hockey teams in Canada. And they're better at the sport in general. I'm generalizing here than the United States. But it's a little strange to me why the American media hasn't really picked up the story of the Hughes brothers as much as I thought it might. There are some articles out there about it, but I thought it would be a little bit bigger. I thought there might be more interviews with, Jim Hughes and Ellen Hughes. That's the mom and dad. But they haven't really linked it together, which is a little surprising. And what's really interesting is that their mom is a former professional hockey player. She played 3 sports, actually, soccer, lacrosse, and hockey, while going to the University of New Hampshire. And you would think, after she won a silver at the Women's World Championships, there would be more about this. Maybe I'm missing something. Dad was an assistant coach in the minors, I believe. Maybe I'm missing something there. Also worked for Toronto. So I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't know if Trent, I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's just a little surprised that they would not be a little bit more of this, of a storyline. So I hope maybe people will now pick this up a little bit more. Pick that up in the sense of talking to their two two brothers, talking about the brother who's not there, for example, talking about the mom and dad and their affection for hockey, and how the fact that these guys were where they were born. I think they were born in Canada, and then they moved to Florida, and then to Canton, Michigan. So we kind of claim them as our own. I don't know if that's a fair assessment. It's kind of like, I don't know, Trent, as a Michigan State Spartan, did you claim Nick Foles?
No, I didn't even know he was one until he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there you go. So you've got something like that. I don't know, man. It's a really cool story, I think, and one that has a lot of legs that could continue and live evergreen in media, and they just have not connected the dots. Anyway, really good story, really fun game to watch yesterday. You kind of felt for Lucas Raymond, who had a hell of a tournament. He's the second leading scorer in the tournament, I believe. Third. No, he's tied for second. Connor McDavid is 1. Macklin Celebrini is 2. He's 19, by the way. Macklin Celebrini is 19. He's second in the Olympic scoring of all teams. He's on a heater. He's unbelievable. And Lucas Raymond is tied with him, I think, with 9 points. But now Lucas Raymond's going home. I don't know if that means he's playing next week for Detroit and Ottawa or not. I assume it does. Larkin would be 2 eventually. But maybe Lucas Raymond can get back with his team a little bit quicker.
He looked devastated when they lost. I mean, any team does,
that was
of course, but
it was a great pass.
It was,
wasn't it?
Yes.
To Micah Zibanejad. Phenomenal pass. And what a shot. Unbelievable shot. That was a great game.
Clutch. Yeah.
This is what I mean about hockey. And I can feel it in baseball. I to a certain extent, I can feel it in football too. I mean, even though it was 1-0, that was still a good hockey game. People were still on the edge of their seats. And how cool was it that George Kittle was there? Christian McCaffrey was there. They had plenty of big name celebs, if you will. Not that that's most important. Speaking of George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, football. Would you do this if you were the Lions? And then another possibility. We'll get into that. Who fits the Lions when it comes to top 50 players who are available? And perhaps a rumor that one specific player is going to sign an extension might be a problem for the Lions moving forward. So a lot of football on the other side. We're brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth. It is a Tullymore Thursday, and we're glad you're with us on X's and Bros.
Save a good deal more during the Meijer Dollar Deal Sale, February 18th through March 3rd. Shop the entire store and choose from more than 800 items, all $1 each. Fill your basket with favorites like extra large navel oranges, Meijer frozen personal pizza, Powerade sports drink, Knorr pasta or rice sides, and Meijer facial tissue. The Meijer Dollar Deal Sale. That's the good life. A good deal better. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join the Grand Rapids Griffins and Van Andel Institute for the Purple Community Game, which is coming up on March 13th in downtown Grand Rapids. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute, and you'll have a chance to bid on limited edition Purple Griffins jerseys. You can learn more at vai.org/events.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Thanks for tuning in to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Mark's has been like a little bit of an older brother, mentor since known him. Tremendous player, tremendous person, and really close friend. I mean, I think I just follow from what a big heart Larks has, and he always tells me to pay it forward, and I think that's a great message.
That's Quinn Hughes talking about the impact that Dylan Larkin has made on him in his career. And Larkin has, continues to make such a difference with so many. I have been in the past, and it's time. Sometimes there's a come to Jesus moment for all of us where you have to stand up and say, you know what? Maybe it was wrong. Maybe it was unfair. Maybe you were a little too harsh. Maybe you're comparing certain players to the wrong field, whatever it may be. Okay. Dylan Larkin, I've thought was not necessarily a first line center. Well, there's a lot of guys on Team USA, the best hockey players in this country, even though I thought they should have taken Jason Robertson and Cole Caulfield, maybe even Alex DeBrincat, but whatever. Those guys would strongly disagree with me. They would say he is a number one center. He's a number 3 center on Team USA. And let's remember, there are at least 3 centers on Team Canada that many people would probably pick over him. So what? Maybe he doesn't possess all the certain skills that a Sidney Crosby, a Nathan McKinnon, a Jack Eichel does. But he does possess some of the major intangibles. And let's not lose sight of that. And let me not lose sight of that. Let me be reminded of that. It kind of, here's what it makes me think of. Not that they're the same impactful player, because Larkin's better at his sport than the guy I'm about to mention is at his. But Tobias Harris is a really important piece to the Pistons. When you talk about the Pistons with your buddies, who do you talk about?
Cade Cunningham?
Of course.
Can you blame anybody? I mean, that's exactly how it works, right?
No.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that's the instinct.
But that's the instinct. It's not how it works, though. Or it shouldn't be how it works. Everybody wants to gravitate to the superstar. And then they forget about the other guys who've been just as instrumental in different ways that you and I don't always recognize properly. Lions. Oh, man, Shep, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Man, I'm buying a Jameson Williams jersey. Give me number 14 on my back. Jared Goff is one of the best. And then you lose Frank Ragnow and you go, holy crap, what the hell happened? Why aren't my guys as good? Why aren't we winning? Oh, it's that guy. I didn't recognize that all the time. We always want the superstars. It's the easiest thing to do. We don't have to work at that. Who's your favorite Piston? Cade Cunningham. Why? Well, he's a 2-time All-Star. He's in the MVP conversation. Look at what he's averaging, 2nd in assists, 4th in minutes played. But sure, you and everybody else. That's easy to do. And I don't blame you. I'm not saying it's wrong because he's a phenomenal player. I love him too. Jalen Duren will probably pick up some points with people who are now fans of the Pistons because he's an all-star as well. But here's what J.B. Bickerstaff said about Tobias Harris. He said every single day he's the same person, same attitude, consummate professional, willing to teach anyone anything. He's willing to sit with every guy. He's an unbelievable businessman. So like people sit with him and just ask him questions about what to do with their money. He's the best. He really is. He's also a pretty good basketball player. You don't play as long as he has without being a pretty damn good basketball player. I'm not suggesting people go out and buy Tobias Harris jerseys. And I'm not saying he is going to be the MVP of this team, of this league, or the key to them winning the Eastern Conference. He's going to be part of it, though. He's a starter. If you're a starter on the best team in basketball, you've had some, and you've done it every time you're healthy. Whenever he's healthy, he's been a starter. That means you're contributing. You're impressing an all-star coach enough for him to be in the starting lineup every single time he's healthy. How many people talk about Tobias Harris? Nobody. They talk about Cade Cunningham, and rightfully so. Jalen Duren, and rightfully so. Isaiah Stewart, because of the defense. I get it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I love Ron Holland. I love Asar Thompson. Yeah, I get it, because they're the new young guys. What about the veteran who's been guiding those young guys, who's been doing a lot of other work that has helped these guys and eased their mind a little bit, eased a little tension? Rarely do you hear about it. In fact, if you do hear about it, it's, well, I would trade him since he's on an expiring contract. Or here's my favorite. This was last year too. He's not really worth it because he disappears in playoff time. That's what it is, right? Dylan Larkin does a lot of little things that too many of us don't know. The face-offs is a really good example. I texted my friend last night when they started overtime in the 3-on-3, which I don't know. Do you like that? Do you like the 3-on-3 in the Olympics? I actually do. I wish they would do it in the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you're going to do it during the regular season, I think you should do it during the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I texted a friend of mine, and I said, why Trocheck taking the face-off? And his response was, he's really good at face-offs. And my response back was, so was Larkin. In fact, Larkin's better. And it didn't really matter because it was almost like it's like a FOGO in lacrosse. FOGO stands for face off, get off. You win the face off, you get possession of the ball, you're off. On comes a more talented offensive weapon for your team. You lose the face off, you're off. On comes a defensive midi. That's the way it works in lacrosse. Not all the time, but that's oftentimes it's a specialty. It's not quite like a kicker, but it's a specialty. You are a specialty. You win the face-off, and then you get off the field because you don't possess as gifted an offensive game as the guy coming on to replace you. He's not as gifted at face-offs. But I found it really interesting that J.B. Bickerstaff mentioned that about Tobias Harris on a recent podcast. It's really cool. He mentioned him in ways other than just basketball. And because we have busy lives and because we're doing a lot of things, that doesn't register with us all the time. That a lot of these kids oftentimes will, not every day, but oftentimes will have questions about being a pro. Asar Thompson's a young player. Chaz Lanier's a young player. Ron Holland is a young player. To a certain extent, Dennis Jenkins is a young player. They can go to Tobias Harris and ask him anything. How much do you think that eases their mind as you get ready? Think about your own career. Think about what you've done. Think about how you've had to learn and who you leaned on. Or maybe you didn't have anybody to lean on. Maybe there was nobody there who said, I need to ask you a question. And it's not necessarily business related. Tobias Harris is that guy. And I think that's an important thing to remember. All right. All right. Let me ask you this about the Lions. The Raiders, they say, are asking for 2 firsts and a premium player in any potential trade, according to Adam Schefter. In any potential trade, if you want to come to us with a trade proposal, we want 2 firsts and a premium player. Give you an example. Micah Parsons goes from Dallas to Green Bay. Dallas got a first-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, and Kenny Clark, premium player. Okay. If you were the Lions Would you trade 2 firsts and one of your premium players for Max Crosby? That's the question. And that's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question of the day. Would you, as a Lions fan, trade 2 firsts, 2026, 2027? You can't kick that can down the road. The Raiders want it now. Tom Brady and company, they want their, hey, man, no. You don't give me 2029. I want it in the next 2 years. We need to open our window because right now our window is closed shut. The caulk is completely glued on each side, and they've nailed the window down. There's nothing there. We can't even open the thing. We actually need to tear the window out and replace it. So please, we need a first this year and a first next and a premium player. Who would the premium player be? And would you do it for Max Crosby? You would. If you did that, you would have the best pass rushing duo in the National Football League. I think it would be better than Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter in Houston. They have the best. I guess second would be, what do you think, Green Bay? Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons when Micah Parsons is healthy. Rashawn Gary is a free agent, so they're going to have to address something, and they've got some serious problems right now with their cap. The Green Bay Packers do. So would you do that? That's the question. The phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843, or text us, Sports Radio 21,000. We know the pressures from Aiden Hutchinson last year. We know the sacks from Aiden Hutchinson. Max Crosby played 2 less games, had 10 sacks last year. So he has had double-digit sacks 4 times in his 7-year career. If you believe that you want players in their prime, yours truly, I believe that too. He's 28. Okay? Next August, he'll be 29. Still think he's kind of a young 29 because of how he takes care of his body. The work ethic is unquestioned. The pressures are unquestioned. The sacks, no doubt about that. The tackles for loss, he's led the league twice in tackles for loss. Last year in 15 games, he had 28 tackles for losses. You want that? Put that in perspective? Okay. Aiden Hutchinson last year had 14 tackles for losses. Max Crosby had twice as many tackles for loss as Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson had 35 quarterback hits because we've talked about his pressures and things of that nature, right? Max Crosby, back to every single year, 30, 36, 31, 20. Again, 15 games, probably had more, would have had somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or so. So he's right around that same. And then as far as passes batted down and things of that nature, there's not many better in the sport who do that than Max Crosby. But this team, I mean, he does carry a heavy price tag with him. He also plays a lot of snaps. He's not taking snaps off. We've talked about that and how important that is. You look at snap count, he's out there. He's at 94% this past year. The year before, he's at 97%. 95% the year before that. 95% before that. Historically, he's up there in his career of 90% or more. You ain't taking him off the field. That opposing offense is going to have to deal with him and Aiden Hutchinson 90% of the snaps or more. He will help your defensive tackle become better. He will help your secondary become better. But this team has needs. This team needs a center. It needs a left tackle. Probably needs a safety. Needs a linebacker. Needs a running back. Needs a tight end. And this team doesn't have a 3rd-round pick. You're going to go into the draft with a 2nd-round pick, and a 4th round pick and a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick and a 7th round pick. How are you going to address those needs? Got to hit a home run on that 2nd round. And remember what you and I have talked about in the past. What have we said? As much as we admire Brad Holmes, you like him, I like him, right? I don't know if it's still in Brad Holmes we trust, because that may have gone away. But when you look at 2nd round picks, I think Tate Ratledge is going to be good. But in his career, he's got guys like Enos Rakestraw. Sure, he's got Sam Laporta and Brian Branch as well. But he's got Josh Paschal. He's got Levi Onwuzurike. So he's not exactly hitting a lot of home runs in his 2nd round pick. We don't know about Ratledge, but we think he's going to be good. He's got 2 guys right now that he can brag about. So that's the question. On top of that, I need to know which player you would give up. The name that comes to mind is Jameson Williams. Raiders love themselves some speed. They need a big play wide receiver. Actually need a lot more than that, but that would help. He's still a young player. He's under contract. He can be a game breaker. You drafted one in the 3rd round a year ago. Not that he's the same type of player, but he is a wide receiver who can contribute. And let's face it, you can find wide receivers easier than you can find impactful edge players. Would you do that? 2 firsts and Jameson Williams for Max Crosby. Phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. Text us, Sports Radio 21,000. We'll get to some of those texts, get to some of your thoughts. Greg Wyshynski of ESPN will join us at 8:35. He's the hockey writer for that website. And we will talk about the Olympics and the second half push when we come back. Here on X's and Bros, we're brought to you this hour by friend Mitch Lyons and MitchLyonsWealth.com.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now, they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also, Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Avelo Airlines knows you love the Tigers because they love them too. It's why they have direct flights to Lakeland, Florida out of both Grand Rapids and Detroit. Thursdays and Sundays are nonstop out of GR, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are nonstop out of Detroit. So wherever you are in Michigan, you can get down to spring training to watch your Tigers. With everyday low fares, reliable service, you do not want to fly any other way. Head to AveloAir.com to book your trip now. That's AVELO Air.com and use code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare if you book before March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Ferris Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Ferris Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Second hour of the program. Thanks for being with us here across the great state of Michigan, whether it's on many of our great affiliates, and we always appreciate their partnership, or it's via stream on YouTube, on Facebook, or on Twitter. Thanks for being with us. The poll question: if you're the Lions GM, would you trade 2 first-round picks and a premium player for Max Crosby? Yes, go all in. No, too big of a price. That is the Mitch Lions Wealth poll question. Trent has tweeted it out. I have retweeted it, and you can start voting, and then we will tabulate it for tomorrow. Freddie is always a loyal listener, and we greatly appreciate it. Love his feedback and love what he brings to the table on a regular basis. He says this. There's a couple of things here, but regarding the Lions, what we just talked about. If the Raiders traded Crosby and the number 1 overall in separate deals, they could land 5 to 6 firsts and a few seconds and be set up for years and then sign Malik Willis, which is interesting.
I think that's a really good point. Not the Malik Willis part per se, but the fact that they could, he's right, they could feasibly have like 3-4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. Easily.
I'm not sure about that. Here's what we have to ask ourselves. First of all, for Max Crosby, yes. So that's the going rate. Somebody's got to give him 2. There's 2. Who wants Mendoza? Who wants Fernando Mendoza? The first thing you have to ask yourself is, if you're a general manager, is he a franchise quarterback? Just because he's the first quarterback in this year's draft doesn't mean that he's a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, so I would say no, and I think you agree.
Okay, I agree as well. Look, I like the kid. I respect the hell out of what he did. He should be drafted. If I needed, and this is why I don't draft for need, I would not draft him. Now, I am not an NFL scout, first. Second, I have been wrong on plenty of quarterbacks in the past. All right? I was wrong about, I didn't think Malik Willis was worthy of a drafting situation. I watched him at Liberty, called one of his games at Liberty. I thought he was just a guy. I shouldn't say I didn't think he was draftable, but I didn't think he was a starting quarterback in the National Football
He was getting a ton of hype too, and you simply just didn't think he was worth all that hype. I think that's more where you were coming from.
That's part of it. Absolutely. Now, remember this, though. It has taken him a while to really gain that traction. He was a 3rd-round pick. Same as Hendon Hooker. So would I have taken him in the 3rd round? Sure. But he was hyped like he was going to be a 1st-round choice. I would not have picked him in the 1st round. Keep this in mind, though, Trent. He started 6 games in his career. He's a 3rd-round pick, 2022, and he started 6 games. That's it. Trent, this guy's thrown 155 passes in the National Football League. That's it. And people act like this guy's unbelievable. My point is, he was projected as 1st-rounder. Mendoza's accomplished a hell of a lot more than he has in his college career. It doesn't mean that he's going to be a superstar. He's not going to be the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, any of those things. All right. So would you really be able to get 5 to 6 first rounds? Is there anybody in the National Football League draft this year that's going to say, I want Mendoza so bad that I would surrender 3 future firsts and seconds to go get him?
No.
I don't view that.
No. I was looking at it from the Crosby perspective. If they trade Crosby and get the haul that they're hoping they can get.
Right, but that's 2. That's what I'm saying.
So you'd have 3 total if you count the Mendoza one. Because they just have 1 first-rounder this year, right?
Who's that?
The Raiders. They just have the 1 first-rounder this year?
Correct. So you but that's not acquiring them. You already have yours.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say they could land 5 to 6 firsts, that means you're expecting people to give up 3 firsts or so to get Mendoza, to just move up and get that quarterback who may not be a franchise quarterback. I don't know how people feel about him, right? I don't see that happening. Okay. And he says and then you could sign Malik Willis. I wrote, that's interesting, but I'm not sure they would get that many picks. The Jets could just go sign Malik Willis. He's a free agent. Why wouldn't you just go sign Malik Willis? Why draft Fernando Mendoza and have him play and get the crap kicked out of him on a regular basis? And look, he's right. I mean, separate deals. He's not saying it's all one deal. He's saying separate deals. They'll get, the Raiders will, 2 firsts for Max Crosby. That's the going rate. I think somebody would do that. How do they address their quarterback situation? Go sign Malik Willis if you think he's that good. Personally, I think he's a really good backup. I wouldn't want him starting 16 games for me. But in today's NFL, think about how many really good quarterbacks there are. There aren't that many. The Jets, part of their dysfunction, I believe, is doing something like that. I'm going to give up 3 firsts to move all the way to 1 and take a quarterback who is one of the, as much as he's accomplished at the collegiate level, is he one of the stronger quarterbacks coming out of college in recent memory? When you take, like, there's no question who the number 1 pick was in this year, bop, 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 and it's a Q, right? We get so caught up in that position, and I understand why, because it's the most important position on the field. But it seems like a lot of teams that are dysfunctional are always reaching. We've got to go get that guy. We've got to go sign him. Please, please. Miami did that with Josh Rosen. Look at the you've got Zach Wilson. And I'm not just bringing up failure guys, but I mean, teams are willing to do whatever they can to get that quarterback, chase that quarterback, even though it is not a consensus. It's totally different when Matthew Stafford was chosen. Everybody knew he was the number 1 overall pick. Everybody knew he was a franchise quarterback. I don't think people believe that about Fernando Mendoza. Now, I could be wrong there. I just don't get that sense. He's accurate. He doesn't have a really strong arm, but he's accurate. His mind can separate him. You know, the common thought is, of course, Tom Brady. He didn't have a really strong arm and all this other stuff. Yeah, we're talking about the elitist. We're talking about elite. There's no doubt that his strength was his mind, his footwork, his mechanics, his commitment, all that other stuff. Not that Fernando Mendoza can't use all those traits that are so necessary as a quarterback. I just think it's very interesting that we get to that point where, because we need a quarterback, we're willing to do whatever we possibly can to get it done. And I think you got to be very careful about that. Somebody had written recently about Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's a guy, Miami's just cleaning house. They're just getting rid of everybody. All right. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been made available by Miami as well. Tyreek Hill's gone, Bradley Chubb gone. They're just, Tua Tagovailoa is probably one of those guys who is going to get shipped somewhere, which will reaffirm my belief that I never thought he was a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I've said I've been wrong about some guys. I've been right about a lot of guys too. And he's one of them. I think he's just a guy. And that's kind of similar how I feel about Malik Willis. It's kind of how I feel about Fernando Mendoza coming into the National Football League. It's not that I root against him. I root for him. I root that I'm wrong in that regard. But man, I mean, the desperation people feel about that position is amazing to me. That they'll do whatever they possibly can. And I always ask myself, what are they seeing that I'm not? It's not like they're Jaden Daniels here. It's not like it's Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams still has a lot of growing. Never seen a guy do as much off-season media for his numbers as Caleb Williams. We'll do more. Minkah Fitzpatrick and a few other things. And what could be a possible signing or restructuring of a contract that might affect the Lions. We'll talk about that on the other side. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The huge show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Don't you love the honesty that many athletes have? Connor McDavid, for example. Connor McDavid recently was asked about what else he likes to do. He goes, I don't want to play golf, which should cause concern right now. I'm just kidding. He said, I don't want to sit by the pool. I don't want to be in the Bahamas. I don't need a break or a fresh start. I just want to be in Edmonton playing hockey. I want to get back there again, whatever it takes. If that sounds like a robot, then I guess I'm a robot, but I see it differently. It doesn't feel like work to me. It's the game I love. Ever since I was a little kid, it's been the same feeling. It's like every time you step onto a fresh sheet of ice, even if it's 5 o'clock in the morning, you're so excited for that Zamboni to come off, for that barn door to swing open, and you can hop out into the ice. You hear that first crunch, and you just love it. I still love it, even when it sucks. Every day is another chance, another opportunity to choose better. I cannot wait for these Olympics. I'll be bringing everything I've learned for sure to represent the country I love. I've waited a long time to say that. I don't think it will ever really hit me until it's over. But I was in the U17s for the first time I wore a Canadian jersey, and I've dreamt of this moment ever since. That's a guy who just, loves what he does. It's a phenomenal statement from Connor McDavid. This was just before the Olympics. And he said, being in a room with different generations of great players, from Sid and Nate, that's Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon, to Celebrini and all those guys. It's such an honor. And Macklin Celebrini, as I mentioned, 19. Greatest player in the world. Still gets that kind of goosebumps. Might be something you want to check out and perhaps send to somebody who might really appreciate it. Because, when I read that, I sent it to my kids because they used to love hockey. They still do. They still love watching it. And one of them even still plays in a league. But the best times in my life, I think, always had to do with going to see my kids participate in sports because of what sports teaches you. But there was nothing like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, waking your kid up gently and saying, hey man, are we going to hockey? Yeah. And watch them bounce out of bed and jump in the car, still sleepy eyed, but slowly waking up as we got closer and closer to the rink. And when you walk into the rink, there's a certain smell that may not be always pleasing to most. When you walk into a locker room, it sure as hell isn't always pleasing to most. But you see that fresh sheet of ice, and then you hear them hit the ice, and you hear the blades cracking on the ice, and the stick smacking the puck, ringing off a post, hitting into the boards, and then sitting on those cold bleachers, thinking to yourself, I could still be sleeping, but there's no place I'd rather be. It's pretty awesome. It really is. All right, let me get back to the discussion. It just made me reflect a little bit. The discussion regarding the Lions. There's a website that has rated the top 50 free agents out there and tried to find the best fit for those free agents. There's one Lion on the free agent top 50 list, and there's one player that the website suggests is a good fit for the Detroit Lions. That player is Joey Bosa. He's the edge rusher from Buffalo and he's a serviceable player. He's not a home wrecker. He's not Max Crosby. He's not Trey Hendrickson. Not right now. But he's a serviceable player. He's an upgrade. He played 15 games last year, had 7 sacks. You're going to have to account for him. I think that's important. Here's what they write. Lions had 16 sacks on third down last season, tied for 15th in the league. Didn't know that. That's a good stat. 16 sacks on third downs a year ago, tied for 15th, middle of the pack, or just above middle. So Detroit could add Bosa to elevate its sub-package pass rush. In other words, he's not a guy, when I told you before, Max Crosby played 94% of the snaps last year for the Raiders in 15 games. Joey Bosa did not. Joey Bosa, when you say sub-package, that means he comes in pass rushing situations. So let's put it in perspective if we can. Aiden Hutchinson plays well over 90% of the snaps. When healthy, he's a baller, okay? Joey Bosa played the same number of games as Max Crosby, had 3 fewer sacks, and played 64% of the snaps. So he played 30% less than a guy like Max Crosby. And yet, despite that, he still had 7 sacks. That tells you something. So if healthy, this is a guy who can help you. Bosa had 5 sacks with the Bills in 2025 on third downs. So 5 of his 7 came on third downs. He would fit well opposite Aiden Hutchinson with his speed to power production and the effort level to clean up late in plays. If you could sign one free agent, just one, they have Trey Hendrickson as the number 1 free agent, and they got him going to Indianapolis. Tyler Linderbaum is the number 3. They've got him going to the Giants, back reuniting with his old coach, John Harbaugh. Jaden Phillips, an edge rusher, they have listed at 6. They have him staying in Philadelphia. Rasheed Walker is a guy I've mentioned before as an offensive tackle. If you wanted to target that position through free agency, he's a guy who would be a good fit for Detroit. They've got him going to Cleveland. He's played at Green Bay, okay? And his pass block win rate of 94% is pretty important. That's top 10 among close to 70 qualifying offensive tackles. You want to protect your quarterback? We all know what the quarterback is. We said this yesterday. We've said it for a long time, and it's not unique. A lot of people have said this. Jared Goff needs protection. That's okay. Do we expect a quarterback to do it without? I hope not. Even the great Patrick Mahomes doesn't do it without. Okay? He's had some pretty good linemen over the years, and they've exhausted some resources on those linemen. Hello, Creed Humphrey. So when we say, well, this guy's got to do it better, hold on a second now. A lot of these quarterbacks who are really good, considered among the best, their offensive lines have been pretty good. New England notwithstanding. 2 years ago and then even this year. Well, guess what? This year, Jared Goff, 38 sacks, most in his career. You got to fix it. If you choose through free agency, and my guess is you're not getting you're not getting a center, you're not getting a guard, and you're not getting a tackle. Oh, and you're getting an edge rusher. You're not solving all that through free agency. I gave you the CBS report earlier in the week that teams that spend that much money in free agency, that go all out in free agency, their winning percentage is far less than those teams that are outside the top 5 spending teams in free agency. I said that earlier in the week, in case you missed it. Anyway, if you're going to spend any free agency money on somebody, on any one particular position, what would it be? Khalil Mack is going to cost a little bit more than Joey Bosa. Tyler Linderbaum is going to cost more than some of the other centers who might be available. So where do you go? The one lion they have, the one lion in the top 50 is Alex Anzalone. They've got him ranked 50th, and they've got him going as the best fit to Tampa. Phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. You could text us, Sports Radio 21,000. Greg Wyshynski of ESPN.com joins us at 8:35 to talk USA hockey and a whole lot more. This is X's and Bros, and we're brought to you by Meijer on a Tullymore Thursday.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Hey, when you travel, you want low fares, you want reliable service, and you want a direct flight. Avelo Air gives you all of that and more. Avelo Air has direct flights to take Tigers fans to spring training in Lakeland. Avelo Air will take you from Grand Rapids to Lakeland directly on Thursdays and Sundays. They will take you directly from Detroit to Lakeland on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You literally land 20 minutes from the ballpark. You don't have to wait in lines. You don't have to worry about any of that other hassle. This is hassle-free travel like you deserve. Go to AveloAir.com and get $20 off a base fare round-trip flight to Lakeland when you book your trip by March 31st. All you have to do is use the code HUGE. That's HUGE on AveloAir.com. Restrictions do apply. See AveloAir.com for details today.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at FreddieThePizzaMan.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit FreddieThePizzaMan.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Hey, back with you, X's and Bros, 35 after the hour. 1 hour from now, Greg Wyshynski of ESPN.com will join us to talk about Team USA, what it's meant to hockey, how hockey can capitalize on it. I think hockey's actually capitalized on the Four Nations tournament. I thought it made a difference in other sports. I thought it made a difference. Look, the World Baseball Classic helps a little bit, don't you think? I do. Do you think the NBA's All-Star format this past year, which you and I both liked, do you think it was influenced at all by the Four Nations tournament?
Yes.
So do I.
Because I think it's that, as well as, like, at the same time, the game has gotten more global, so you had more global stars. You've been able to do something like that. You never would have been able to go Team World versus Team USA even 10 years ago. I don't think you would have had the same competition. So that's part of it. But to your point, hockey laid the blueprint for how to make this thing competitive. Because guys are like playing for their countries.
Here might be the differences. And I think you're 100% right. It's exactly what I was going to say. 10 years. In hockey, for some reason, the NHL, when they put on that Four Nations tournament, they didn't fear that Team USA would lose. It's not an all-star game, but it's still a tournament that people embraced and people loved. I mean, people absolutely loved that tournament.
It was awesome.
It really was. How you can pick just four, that's a little dicey. I don't want this to be the NCAA college football playoff, okay, where you go from 4, suddenly you go to 8.
The 8 nations
12,
tournament.
Right, and then you're going to go to 24, according to the Big Ten. So I don't want it to turn into that. But picking the Four Nations is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
because then you're kind of teetering on Olympic type style competition. And you sure can't do what the Ryder Cup does, just Team USA against Europe, or maybe you could. What do you do with Canada? So there's part of the problem. I wouldn't consider Canada Europe, would you? And yet,
no, you'd have to go USA versus World, or you'd have to go North America versus World. But neither one of those seem kind of lopsided, don't they?
Well,
I mean, either way you slice it there.
If you put North America against World, if you put Team USA and Canada together, in the words of The Sopranos, forget about it.
But I also think Team USA versus the World would be unfair in the World's favor, because you're giving all those.
Hockey.
Yes.
In hockey, you're saying.
Yes, in hockey.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But
so they can't really do the same. They don't have the same luxury that basketball has in that regard. But that's why they picked the Four Nations.
Well, wait a minute. But you're right, I think, for the most part. But the National Hockey League is not afraid that Team USA would lose.
That's a great perspective, and I think you're totally right about that.
The NBA is very fearful of that possibility. And you said you couldn't do that, but the NBA, we can do that now. You actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, if you went World against Team USA, in basketball, just one team, that's all I'm talking about. And that the guys who are international players as well as I do. Do you not think they would be favored?
Oh, I think they would. I mean, even this year they were favored. They lost both games, but Team World was favored to win that.
Oh, I didn't think they were favored when Antetokounmpo and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander
I could be wrong about that. Plus, Jokic didn't end up playing a whole lot because he just didn't really want to. But I think on paper, most people would have picked him, right? Yeah.
If you look at the worldview, and I think the NBA is fearful of that. I think that's the reason they went with 2 Team USAs and 1 international team. I really do. I'm not saying these guys are the best players. I'm just saying, if you went Luka Doncic and you went Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and you went with Nikola Jokic and you went with Giannis Antetokounmpo and you went with Jamal Murray and you went with Lauri Markkanen,
Wembanyama,
and you went with, obviously, Victor Wembanyama, okay? You went with Pascal Siakam. There's 9 guys right there. And we haven't really dipped into some of the others. Those guys right there, Karl Anthony Towns. I know you don't like him. Karl Anthony Towns.
Alperen Şengün. I mean, that's a full rotation's worth of all-stars. You're right.
For sure.
And you've got not even just that. You've got probably 4 of the top 5 players in the world that we just listed. I mean, and you know, that stuff gets subjective, but the point is, we're in a very unique spot now with basketball where it's like the team world is favored. If they're at full strength, they 100% are favored.
Other teams, I mean, other sports are doing it. Baseball's doing it. Baseball's not afraid that Japan could win it. The World Baseball Classic. I've gone over this. I think Team USA is stacked. Love it, right? What about Venezuela? What about Puerto Rico? What about Japan?
The Dominican Republic.
Okay. Dominican Republic. All those teams are as good, if not better, than Team USA.
Yep.
And yet it's embraced by Major League Baseball. Basketball, I don't know when it happens, but at some point, because of the shift, because of so many athletes now taking up the sport of basketball, this is what commissioners have wanted forever. They want to expand their sport worldwide, okay? They want it to be soccer. The U.S. is never going to be a soccer threat. It's just not going to happen. Trust me when I tell you this. I have heard this since I was 10 years old. I've heard it from people. Soccer, man, we love soccer. It's the up-and-coming sport, blah, 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 blah. Where is it? Sure, kids play it. It's easy. Mom and dad say, there's a net, there's a ball, here's some cleats. Oh, you got to play some shin pads. Go ahead and practice. It's an easy thing to practice, and it's an easy thing to sign up for, and the kids, they get running around. The U.S. is not a dominant force in soccer. It never has been, and it never will be. Our biggest moment in soccer is what?
Well, it's all on the women's side for sure.
Well,
but
on the women's side, but those, you know, remember those women also get beat by a high school team. But those women, it was against China. It was a penalty kick from 10 yards away, and she takes her shirt off. And I'm not downplaying. I'm just saying that hasn't inspired all this unbelievable world stage soccer participation in the United States. It's not that they haven't been good. At times they have been. Where's the consistency? Everybody's trying to expand their sport, is my point. Football's trying to do that right now. The National Football League is playing. How many weeks are they playing consecutively in places outside our boundaries? It looks like the Lions are going to go to Germany next year. You've got all these teams going to different places on the globe because Roger Goodell wants to expand the sport. Okay, great. I'm not saying he's wrong there. But basketball is going to eventually, it's going to force the NBA to make it world against Team USA, like the other sports, because it has caught so much attention in other foreign lands. Baseball's always been like that, and hockey's always been like that. In fact, hockey, the U.S. is a little late to the party. Hockey's been dominated by Canadians and Russians for the most part.
Fashionably late because they are arriving now, as you're seeing, and they're going for gold.
For sure. But here's the difference. In hockey, it's the U.S. who's gaining momentum. It's gaining momentum because we were kind of, like I said, late to the party. Sure, it was broken by Sergei Fedorov coming over and, you know, Slava Fetisov and Igor Larionov and Alexander Mogilny and guys like that, Pavel Bure. But the U.S. didn't have a heavy participation in the National Hockey League. The percentage was low. National team development comes along. Hockey programs start getting more serious. You've got more and more players coming out of college, more and more American-born hockey players. Wayne Gretzky gets traded to the Los Angeles Kings. It starts to spiral upward, and the U.S. has now become more hockey fashionable.
Yeah, it's coming to a head. And to your credit, Shepard, or to your point here, it's like they were never afraid to be second banana or not as good for a while. They leaned into it and, you know, kind of accepted the fact that they might not be quite as good as the rest of the world stage. But like you said, they weren't afraid to lose.
Right. They had growing pains.
Yeah.
The U.S. had growing pains in that sport. They embraced the sport, but kids, how much did kids really embrace the sport? I think everything changed when Wayne Gretzky was traded to L.A. Look at the number of.
That's how the story goes for sure.
Well, look at the number of teams that have been added in warm weather states, and now look at where guys come from.
And now you got teams like the Florida
Panthers.
Panthers.
From Texas, they come from Arizona, they come from Florida. Okay, I don't know if people realize this. Little Caesars is the number one youth travel hockey organization in the world. It's incredible. Kids come from all over this country to the state of Michigan to participate in that program or try out for that program. My son has friends who've played in that all over the world. Billet families throughout the state of Michigan, from kids coming from Arizona, California, Florida, St. Louis, you name it. Trying to play with the best of the best. Helps to play at Little Caesars Arena, but you know what I'm saying. The NBA at some point is going to have to recognize that the influence, the international influence is so great that you can't ignore it anymore, and you're not going to run from it. So embrace it and play them. And if you lose, you lose. It doesn't mean it's not our sport anymore. That's happened with Canada. It's happened with Russia. It's happened with Sweden. Their sports, those sports are really, hockey's really important to those nations. Like you're in a full year mourning in Canada if you don't win the gold medal in something. And when Team USA wins World Juniors, it is, I mean, heads roll in those Canadian federation organizations.
Playing the game or tournament or games or whatever and losing is much more respectable to every single athlete, every single person associated with sports out there than ducking the challenge entirely. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the NBA, if people don't believe it right now, I think eventually the NBA is going to get some heat because of it.
And I think this year, though, was a good step in the right direction. Like, I think we realistically could see USA versus World, just two teams, no round robin, no 3-team format next year because of how well this year was received.
Well, I don't think it's going to be next year because of all the positive feedback from players, but I do believe it's coming.
They've proven they're willing to change the format so often too.
Well, they changed it so often. I'm not going to pat them on the back for that. They've changed it. You know how many times you and I did a show on this last year about how many times they've changed it. So I'm not patting them on the back. What I do believe it's coming within the next 5 years. Next year, it'll probably stay the same format. First of all, they're looking for consistency. Second of all, this one worked. Third, it was endorsed proudly by players who played in it before and afterwards. So I don't think the NBA is going to change anything that quote unquote ain't broken, but it's coming. Within the next 5 years, I would really expect the National Basketball Association for their all-star festivities to have Team USA against Team International or Team World or whatever the hell you want to call it, because it is so front and center now with international players being not just some of the best, but influential to other fans. People are out there. Not everyone's wearing the jersey of an American player. They love Jokic. They love Wembanyama. They love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They want to wear Giannis Antetokounmpo's jersey, unless you're in Milwaukee and you're going to have to trade it in sometime soon because of all the stuff he says about the organization. It's coming. Our phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. You could text us, Sports Radio 21,000. This could be a little bit of a problem for the Lions moving forward. There is a projection by a football website that has Bijan Robinson of the Falcons projected to sign a 5-year, $103.5 million deal this offseason. The average annual value will be almost $21 million. It'll be the largest contract in history for an NFL running back. With that said, I couldn't help but wonder, what about Jahmyr Gibbs? The two are basically tied together. I know Gibbs has got a couple of more years before you have to do anything, but the number is going to continue to rise. That's just the way it works in sports. Who would have ever thought that somebody would have made more than $40 million in Jacob deGrom until Zach Wheeler comes along and makes $42 million. And then Tarek Skubal, in all likelihood, will break the bank there, unless people feel like his tweet yesterday promoting Dylan Larkin as Team USA and Red Wings captain means that he's going to give a hometown discount. I doubt that. So if you looked at the projection, he could sign a 4-year, $89 million deal where the average annual value would be $22 million. When people talk about the word that I don't like, window, this is the reason they bring it up. Because your quarterback has a heavy contract, your right tackle has a heavy contract, your 2 wide receivers have heavy contracts, your safeties have heavy contracts, your defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, has a heavy contract, your defensive end has a heavy contract, and one of your corners, DJ Reed, who makes about $17+ million, has a heavy contract. If you don't win now, when are you going to win? Because you can't keep up the spending. What they need to do, as much as anything else, I believe, they've got to restructure guys. And I'm sure that's going to happen. They've got to go to Jared Goff and say, we got to restructure your deal. Kansas City has done that with Patrick Mahomes plenty of times. Matthew Stafford did that a couple of times while he was here. Those are the things that it's going to require to free up. Kansas City freed up, $50+ million by restructuring Patrick Mahomes. If the Lions restructured Jared Goff, maybe even restructured Amon-Ra St. Brown, and definitely restructured Aleem McNeil and kicked that proverbial can down the road, then I think you would see this team be able to go out and do some things that would allow more people, not that they don't believe in them now, but more people to believe in that within the next couple of years, it's a Super Bowl championship caliber club. That's the first thing that has to happen. But the possibility of Bijan Robinson doing something like that could mean those types of big money. I wanted to give you the association, the amount of money that is possible there, or the range in which he would sign for a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs. One move every team should make in the offseason. Good article about that. What they suggest the Lions need to do kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We'll get to that. Plus, Greg Wyshynski right around the corner, 35 after the hour. He joins the program on a Tullymore Thursday. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for the annual Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game, which is coming up on Friday, March 13th at Van Andel Arena in downtown GR. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute. The Griffins will be taking on the Milwaukee Admirals in special purple jerseys, and you'll have a chance to bid on a limited edition purple jersey of your own after the game. It's a night you won't want to miss. Learn more about the Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game at vai.org/events and also at griffinshockey.com.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Avelo Airlines knows you love the Tigers because they love them too. It's why they have direct flights to Lakeland, Florida out of both Grand Rapids and Detroit. Thursdays and Sundays are nonstop out of GR, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are nonstop out of Detroit. So wherever you are in Michigan, you can get down to spring training to watch your Tigers. With everyday low fares, reliable service, you do not want to fly any other way. Head to AveloAir.com to book your trip now. That's AVELO air.com and use code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare if you book before March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
I don't know if people saw this in Chicago last year. Welcome back. Final hour, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. Bottom of the hour, Greg Wyshynski, ESPN.com will join us. Looking forward to that, as always. Really gives good insight. Jalen Reeves-Maybin played a couple different stints with the Lions. Special teams guy, captain of the special teams, which can be a very important piece too. Okay? Just because you're playing on special teams doesn't mean you're not a football player. Now, if you're a first-round pick, or a second-round pick or a third-round pick, and you're playing special teams and only special teams, that's an issue, right? That was not the case for Jalen Reeves-Maybin. He's also the NFLPA, the Players Association president. And he played in Chicago a year ago, which gives him a very unique perspective. Dan Campbell in Detroit, Ben Johnson in Chicago. He told Dave Burkett of the Free Press, or maybe he told more than that, but Dave Burkett wrote on it, the differences. He said, under Ben Johnson, it is not a carbon copy of the way Dan Campbell runs things in Detroit. Johnson, who led the Bears to an NFC title, wild card, does things differently. He's his own person. He's extremely smart, definitely has his own approach. I don't go into meetings thinking that, oh, this is just like Dan. That's not what's happening. It's fun to see him create his own culture. And I've been with Ben since 2019 when he came to Detroit. I was fortunate to grow a relationship with him, even though I was on the other side of the ball. It's been amazing to see him. He says, Dan is an incredible leader. And if you're around him, he's going to make an impact on you, and you're probably going to take things from him. I try not to read too much into things, but when somebody says that, he's like, Ben, I get the sense that Ben Johnson is still trying to create a culture in Chicago, and that Dan Campbell is a real guy. In other words, he's a guy you can totally relate to. All the things you see from him at the podium, maybe in Applebee commercials or other commercials, I don't know, that's possible. But that's who he is. And when you hear players who are no longer with the franchise saying that, that just kind of reaffirms what you maybe have believed about Dan Campbell from the very get-go.
And they have a recent example, of something maybe a little different. And maybe he's saying between the lines that he preferred the way Dan Campbell did things over Ben Johnson. That's how I read it.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I didn't take that from it, but that's good. I mean, your read is that he liked what Dan Campbell. I read that if he ever were to get into coaching, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, he's going to take more from what his experience with Dan Campbell than Ben Johnson.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. He's acknowledging there's two different ways they're doing things, and he likes perhaps he would go the way Dan Campbell went.
Right. The impact Dan Campbell has made on him is greater than the impact that Ben Johnson has made on.
There we go.
Now, in fairness, he's been with Dan Campbell longer, but Ben Johnson had a chance to not just take his shirt off and have those cool little screams after a victory, but build something there in Chicago and build a culture. See, now you go, you can't stand Ben Johnson.
I hate those videos.
But you used to love Ben Johnson. And isn't it interesting that social media, as poisonous as it can be, but as informative as it can be, also can change your mind about somebody pretty quickly.
Oh, of course.
You never saw that from Ben Johnson in the Lions locker room when they had the All Access show. You were never seeing that, were you? No.
But a coordinator doing that would have been ridiculous. Can we agree on that?
We can agree on that.
I mean, a head coach.
That's not his place. He doesn't step forward and start leading a screaming match and taking his shirt off. You do. If you're a head coach, go right ahead.
FM Packers screaming that as a coordinator in the middle of the locker room, that'd be a little different than the head coach.
Yeah, much different. You're standing in the background while the head coach is addressing the team, right? But all it takes is a couple of times for him to do that. And then you're like, okay, I've had it. Thank you. Move on. And when you continue to see it, like we all love the All Access stuff, don't we? It's fantastic. Oh man, I love that. I love when a guy's mic'd up. Dylan Lark was mic'd up yesterday. How perfect was that? NBC mics up Dylan Larkin and he scores a goal, right? He wins a faceoff. He's on the bench talking. Let's go full sound up here. Let's come back from break. Let's go full sound up and let's go with Dylan Larkin. This is great stuff. Oh man, Kenny Albert and Eddie Olchecker and their talk back on man, this is fantastic, saying this to the producer. Love this. We all love the all access. Except when it gets to be too much all access. You and I like Hard Knocks. There was a point in time where you've heard enough from ex-player, ex-coach, ex-general manager, whomever the Hard Knocks is about. Giants fans, during the season last year, okay, I've had enough. No more Brian Daboll, please. This is getting ridiculous. They're trying to decipher whether it's real or not. Dan Campbell is real. You may not always like what he has to say. You may not like his decisions. Okay? Hi, John Morton. You may not like a lot of things about what he's done, but he's real. And I think that's pretty obvious. And if you don't believe that, if there's ever a time where a player doesn't have to say, like, you can just say no comment. You don't have to even talk about a guy. If you feel uncomfortable about something, or you don't want to address something, or you've got a bad relation with somebody, you don't want to give them their kudos, you don't want to give them their flowers, then you don't say anything. And this dude actually went out and said, this is a guy I learned from. This is a guy who is a leader. I think doesn't mean he's going to be the Lions head coach for the rest of his life. I'm just telling you, those are important pieces of information, I think. Really important. Hey, what do we see from the Pistons the rest of the year? They get back at it tonight in New York. And it's funny when you hear, Ian Shepard come out on ESPN and say, I think the team to beat in the East is the Knicks. It's like, what? Where have you been? What does it take for you to recognize when one team is superior than another? It's a bad matchup for the Knicks against the Pistons is what I'm talking about. And the Pistons have beaten them like a drum in the two meetings they've met.
And watch how quickly tonight, if the Pistons lose because they're undermanned without Stewart and Duran, how quickly Iman Shumpert will jump back on ESPN and double down and not even bring up the fact that they weren't at full strength.
100%.
Watch it happen.
100%. Now, in fairness to the Knicks, they weren't at 100% last time they played Detroit.
Yeah, Josh Hart was out.
Okay. No, Josh Hart was in.
Maybe it was the first game Josh Hart was out. I think it was the first game they were pretty much full strength except for Josh Hart.
Yeah, I forget who was out last game. Didn't even make the trip. I forget who it is. I don't know if they're full strength tonight, but you're right about that. This will be a telling game. Look, I think Detroit's better than New York, period. But this will be a telling game because if ever a team get revenge is such a stupid cliche in this situation. But if they ever want to prove something to another team, if ever, this would be the time to do it because everybody recognizes how much better Detroit is than you in the first two meetings and the overall standings and just about every category you're looking at. So if New York can't beat Detroit without Duran and Stewart, and they did beat him without Stewart a year ago in the playoffs, how does that make anybody feel confident that that team is good enough to beat Detroit when Detroit is at full strength for a series? When you look at quote-unquote windows, don't you think it's fair to say that the New York window is starting to close, so they better take advantage of it now?
Yeah, I mean, they're not as young as people want to make them out to be.
No,
Karl Anthony Towns is 30. Jalen Brunson's almost 30. I mean, they're not as young as, say, the Pacers and the Pistons are, the Cavs.
For
in,
sure.
In a way, I know they just picked up James Harden.
The Cavs got older, yeah. But they're not nearly as young as the Pistons. All right, quick timeout. Again, Greg Wyshynski at the bottom of the hour, 866-838-4843. Text us, Sports Radio 21,000. You can also text us while watching us stream live on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube as well.
It's time to go on the court.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That's code HUGE, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. This is Ed Kongursky. Michigan's dominant win at Purdue Tuesday was as impressive a road win as there's been in the Big Ten this year. The Wolverines look like a certain number one seed in the upcoming NCAA tourney, and now prep for a rare late-season non-conference game. But it's not just any game. It's against number 3 Duke, Saturday in Washington, D.C. Asked about scheduling it during what would have been their Big Ten bye weekend, Dusty Mays said he likes continuing to play to maintain game rhythm and said they intend to treat this like the NCAA tournament, a matchup everyone would indeed like to see again in March or even April.
Avelo Air knows how much you love the Tigers. They love them too. They want to help you get to spring training in Lakeland because it is an awesome time. They fly nonstop from Grand Rapids to Lakeland Thursdays and Sundays, and nonstop from Detroit to Lakeland Wednesdays and Saturdays. Everyday low fares and reliable service. You don't want to fly anywhere else. Book your trip to Lakeland on AveloAir.com and use the promo code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare when you book by March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
You're listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network. And if you missed any of today's show, be sure to check out our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your podcasts to find the greatest hits from every day's show.
18 after the hour. Somebody recently tweeted out, and tomorrow Team USA plays Slovakia. And today the U.S. women play Canada for the gold. And the U.S. women have been a dominant force. If there's any team that has been a dominant team together in any sport in the Olympics, it's been the women's USA hockey team. I think they've outscored their opponents 26-1, I believe is the number. And they've been untouchable. They shut out Canada. Let's hope they do it again later on today. But Team USA is going to play Slovakia tomorrow. Somebody retweeted the Four Nations tournament from a year ago. And how there were 3 fights in 9 seconds between Team USA and Canada.
Chaos.
It was Matthew Tkachuk, then Brady Tkachuk, then JT Miller.
And leading up to the game, we kind of knew that was going to happen, or we knew there was a good chance that might happen. But for it to happen right away, I'll never forget that.
If people wonder why the Tkachuks get so much attention, it has to do with that moment. And before you judge them, just understand, you and I, as fans of our teams, all want a tone to be set. We wanted, after Chris Draper got run into the boards by Claude Lemieux, we wanted redemption as quickly as possible. We always felt the great Pistons teams, whether it be the bad boys of the late 80s and early 90s or the going-to-work teams, set a tone. The Tkachuks set a tone that game against Canada, in which Team USA won, but they would later lose to that same Canadian team for the gold medal. Now, will they set a similar tone against the Slovaks or Canada in the Olympics? I don't know. Somebody's got to be willing to wear the black hat. Not everybody fits that role. Not everybody can be the jackass of a team. But most great teams have them. Who that is for the Lions, for example, might be Brian Branch. He's the guy who plays on the edge. You're teetering on the edge. Not Aerosmith. I hate that song. But there is, you're teetering a little bit, right?
Yes.
You want that guy. You need that guy. Think of the great teams. Let's just go football. Go ahead. Think of the great teams. Who were those guys? Oh, he's a little dirty. Jack Lambert for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ray Lewis for the Baltimore Ravens. Mike Singletary for the Chicago Bears. I know, I just brought up 3 linebackers. But those are the guys who oftentimes, they push that envelope.
Defensively, for sure. In football, that seems to be a trope.
Yes.
Every great team has one.
Great Red Wing teams had one.
Yeah,
they had
enforcers
guys
and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's not even just the enforcers, because they're just viewed as fighters, and that's not fair. Darren McCarty's a skilled player. He was probably better at one thing than another, but he was a skilled player. The Tkachuks they're good players. They're really good players. You're not making an Olympic team. You're not making one of the best teams in the world just because you're willing to drop the gloves. It's an added bonus to the team. And I think that's similar to what the Red Wings might be missing. That's why, I really like them. I like them because they set the tone. When you see the playoffs come around, Isaiah Stewart is going to set a tone. Don't give me this bullcrap that you love that and then want to criticize the Tkachuks for doing something very similar. Stop it. That's hypocritical. Just because he's your guy and these guys aren't. Well, these guys are your guy if you're an American right now. We're going to get to the final results of the poll question from yesterday. We do have a Mitch Lyons-Wealth poll question today, and that is, would you give up 2 firsts and a premier player for Max Crosby? That's the belief of what it would take. That's according to the Las Vegas Raiders and reports from the Las Vegas Raiders. You can vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. SI.com had a need for something every team in the NFC North should do. What each team should do. The move they have to make. The Bears trade DJ Moore. The Green Bay Packers re-sign Rasheed Walker, their left tackle. Minnesota sign Malik Willis. So much for 9. For the Lions, they say trade for edge rusher Max Crosby. Their reasoning: Hutchinson has needed a co-star on the defensive front for quite some time now. Can I ask this quick question before we dive into that?
Of course.
Do they say that about everybody else? I like Aiden Hutchinson. I think he's a good player. But when Cleveland talks about Myles Garrett, do they say you've got to get somebody opposite Myles Garrett? When the Raiders talk about Max Crosby, do they say you've got to get somebody opposite Max Crosby? When Green Bay or Dallas before had Micah Parsons, you got to get somebody for the opposite side. Is every other team infatuated with the opposite defensive end like the Detroit Lions? And if so, why is it our front office was willing to go out there and coaching staff go out there and say not many guys had double-digit sacks opposite or from their edge rushers, Al-Qadim Muhammad, which I think is a little misleading. But is every other team doing that?
And you know what?
Did Houston go into the offseason a couple years ago and go, you know what? In order for Will Anderson Jr. to get the best out of him, we need a guy like Danielle Hunter. Somebody's got to play opposite him.
I don't think people do that in other markets, and I'm glad you brought this up because I never really thought of it that way, but you're right. If a guy is worth as much as Hutchinson's making, let's just call a spade, then you shouldn't be so worried about the opposite. Now, you can get depth there. You don't necessarily need to get a star like Max Crosby. You don't need to be talking about giving up 2 firsts and a premier player.
Dude, we're infatuated with it.
It gets talked about every day.
The only way that Detroit is going to get better is if they get somebody to help out Aiden Hutchinson. Do you know who makes the 3rd most money on this team? A defensive tackle by the name of Lee McNeil. They went out and they got 2 free agent defensive tackles. DJ Reader a couple of years ago, Roy Lopez, who had a good year. Are they not supposed? They spent a 1st-round pick on Tyleik Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not supposed to help Aiden Hutchinson? What am I missing here?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I don't think other markets talk about it like we do.
No, I bet you they don't. We are constantly pounding the pavement for that other defensive end. What did you pay your current defensive end all that money for then? You're supposed to be double teams. You're supposed to be chip blocks. I hate to put it this way because I can't do it, all right? But I'm not 6'5", 260 pounds either, okay? I don't possess that type of skill set. But the other guys in the NFL who do, the reason they get paid that kind of money is because they do what you do, even though they don't have somebody on the opposite side. Who's opposite of Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati? Can you help me with
Couldn't
that?
tell you. Yeah. Nope, couldn't tell you at all.
Right. There's a reason we only bring up 2 teams with great dual pass rushers. Because not everybody has one. They have one. That's why. Final results of the poll question. Let's go. From yesterday. Go ahead. Speaking to the Kachucks, do you want either Kachuk brother on your hockey team? Yes, love their edge. Yes, but I don't like the way they play. No, can't stand either one. How was the final vote?
Maybe surprising to you, Shep. 67% yes, I love their play style.
Nice.
21% yes, but I'm not a fan. And 12% no, I don't want either one.
Great stuff. How did your daily wager do last night?
Not good because I took USA -1.5, but I don't care. I've never been so happy to lose a daily wager. Michigan State, geez. USA wins 2-1, advancing, playing for gold, as we know. And tomorrow or tonight, I'll take Asar Thompson, 20-plus points, rebounds, assists. No Duran, so I think there's more boards to be had and just more minutes in general. I think Asar goes 20-plus points, rebounds, assists.
Ooh, I hope you're right. I hope it's a win. When we come back, Greg Wyshynski, ESPN.com, joins us on a Tullymore Thursday, and we're brought to you by Avello Air.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Avelo Airlines knows you love the Tigers because they love them too. It's why they have direct flights to Lakeland, Florida out of both Grand Rapids and Detroit. Thursdays and Sundays are nonstop out of GR, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are nonstop out of Detroit. So wherever you are in Michigan, you can get down to spring training to watch your Tigers. With everyday low fares, reliable service, you do not want to fly any other way. Head to AveloAir.com to book your trip now. That's AVELO air.com and use code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare if you book before March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for the annual Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game, which is coming up on Friday, March 13th at Van Andel Arena in downtown GR. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute. The Griffins will be taking on the Milwaukee Admirals in special purple jerseys, and you'll have a chance to bid on a limited edition purple jersey of your own after the game. It's a night you won't want to miss. Learn more about the Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game at vai.org/events and also at griffinshockey.com.
Thanks for listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard, only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Greg Wyshynski, ESPN.com, is going to join us here in a moment. I remember Jim Craig not too long ago tweeted that out about, you remember when that docuseries The Boys came out on Netflix? It was a reflection for the 1980 Olympic hockey team. Yeah, it's fantastic. Jim Craig tweeted, I wanted, this is what Herb Brooks had said to them, I wanted to blur the boundaries of our country. I wanted to build a we and an us in ourselves as opposed to an I, me, myself. It's a great quote. And he wanted them all together to come together and play for their country rather from where they were from. Okay. They weren't from one specific team. They were one specific country. And what I love as much as anything else about what's going on with this hockey team and this hockey tournament, and I'm not saying it's the edge that they need to win the gold, but they do have Johnny Gaudreau's jersey in their locker room, I believe. And that's really important. And Mike Sullivan, the head coach of Team USA, says, I think it means a lot to us. I think there are a lot of the players in the room that are great friends with Johnny Gaudreau and have competed on an international stage with him. And I know it means a lot to these guys to have his jersey hung in our locker room. I think he provides a lot of inspiration for all of us and how he lived his life, his dedication to the game, to his family. He's just a good person on the ice and off the ice. And I think he's an inspiration to our players to this very day. Saw a video with Zach Werenski, the Michigan native and former Wolverine and a member of that defensive team. And he said Johnny Gaudreau would have been on the Four Nations team, would have been in the Worlds, would have been on this Olympic team because he loved playing for his country. Pretty awesome. Yep. Pretty awesome. So kudos to them for doing it and doing it the right way. And I hope it carries them through. Greg Wyshynski will be able to join us here in a few moments to talk about that and talk about the second half of the NHL season that gets underway next Thursday, I believe, in Ottawa for the Red Wings. Mo Sider will be able to join his team shortly. Simon Edvinsson was at practice the other day, so that's good. Mo Sider played more minutes, I think, than anybody else in the Olympics. He logged more ice time than anybody on Germany, and I think he played more than anybody else in the Olympics. He'll be able to join the team shortly. Let's hope Dylan Larkin, when he does join the team again, it's with a gold medal around his neck. That'd be fantastic. Somebody had tweeted not too long ago. You and I were talking yesterday about Mick Cronin from UCLA and his actions at Breslin Center when his team was getting embarrassed by the Spartans. Somebody tweeted UCLA's Mick Cronin, the cruelest coach in college basketball, humiliated a player and reporter at MSU. He's a meaner behind the scenes at practice. NBA scouts told anyone who would listen that he is that type of guy. Here's my question. How does that happen? How does a guy like that in today's day and age, maybe way back in the day, it's one thing, but in today's day and age, how does a guy who's that mean do something like that? I don't have an issue. I really don't. I do not have an issue with him not wanting to talk about the MSU student section. My issue is how you just cut a guy off twice and just assumed what he was going to ask. You know, you want to say, I don't care about their student section. That's fine. But the whole raising of the voice, I mean, we went over it yesterday. The whole raising of the voice and a few other things were just immature. I often find it funny when adults act a certain way. It's the same way they have complained about younger people basically their entire lives. Act like you've been there before, and then you don't. Treat people like you want to be treated, and then you don't. Without an apology. It might be different if he said, look, I'm sorry. I lost control for just a second. It's an emotional moment. Asking me about that right here and right now doesn't help. Okay. So And I get it. You know, the media can be a little invasive. And I don't expect everybody to, you know, absorb this and welcome it and embrace it. But, and you shouldn't have to take certain things either from the media. But handling yourself that way is not a good look, not just on your last name, but on your school's name and in your basketball program's name. Final thought before we get to Greg Wyshynski of ESPN.com to talk a little hockey. Somebody had, you know, we were talking earlier about the Max Crosby, would you give up? And that's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question. Would you give up 2 firsts and a premium player? And my mind immediately went to Jameson Williams for that immediate player. That premium player is what the Raiders want. I'm reading online all these people saying, yeah, Aleem McNeil. The Raiders aren't taking that deal, you guys. How many times do we have to go through this? They want a player who they feel is going to contribute right away. They want a game breaker. They don't have one. And I'm not saying Jameson Williams is the obvious choice, even though I think he quite honestly is. They're not taking a guy who's coming off a bad year and who's been injured and makes that much money. They're just not doing it. So be real. If you're going to have an example, if you're going to have something that might spark interest, be realistic about it. We're brought to you this hour by Avello Air on a Totally More Thursday. Love this guy's stuff. Greg Wyshynski's fantastic at covering hockey for ESPN.com. Thank God he does, because they need more of it, and he joins us here on X's and Bros on a Totally More Thursday. Greg, great to have you on board. Thanks so much. This spirit that we're feeling through the Olympics, and we saw it a little bit in the Four Nations tournament last year. How much do you enjoy it? I mean, you love the game, obviously, but how much do you enjoy it even more when it kind of ramps up a little bit more at this time of the year?
Well, I mean, first of all, the Olympic tournament's just a series of game sevens, right? So, like, you've got that going for you, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, too, is just like you mentioned, you know, hockey coverage and such. And it's kind of like the easiest thing to sell in hockey right now is the USA-Canada rivalry, whether it's on the men's side or the women's side. So, you know, as we watch the women take on Canada today, and as we anticipate that the USA and Canada will play for gold on the men's side, it just becomes a cultural moment for hockey, and it's great.
What's the biggest storyline do you feel of this these Olympic games with the sport of hockey?
I mean, obviously, the general storyline is the return of the NHL players, right, to the Olympic tournament, and you know they didn't go to Pyeongchang, they didn't go to Beijing, and now you see when you get them back in this tournament, it's like the level of talent is off the charts, and you know, I didn't think the group play was all that exciting, to be honest with you. I thought it was kind of boring, but then when you get into yesterday with overtime games and thrilling comebacks and big stars making big plays at big moments, I mean, there's just nothing like it. It's a great advertisement for the sport. I do wish that the IOC maybe kicked a little bit more dough the NHL's way to make this worth their while. So when Sidney Crosby gets hurt, they feel like there was some like level of investment that went on to make it worthwhile. But you know, you can't argue with the quality of the hockey.
He is the quality reporter for ESPN.com, ESPN hockey writer Greg Wyshynski joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Wyshynski. When you see the constant articles about the Tkachuk brothers, and I get it, because Brady's the first one to score for Team USA in the Olympics. They both set a tone for the Four Nations tournament. I love them, and I'd take them on my team any day of the week. But there hasn't been as much made, I think, about the Hughes brothers, Jack and Quinn, and their connection with their parents and how influential they were. When does that start to come out, do you think?
Oh, do you mean the brothers that are actually outplaying the Tkachuks in these Olympics? Those Hughes brothers?
Yeah, they're pretty talented.
I mean,
that's for sure.
You know, I think the Hughes family does get some shine on NBC's coverage. They get shown on camera a lot, and you know, their mom's connection to hockey has been pretty well spelled out. But I mean, their play in this tournament is insane. Like the fact that Quinn did what he did in overtime yesterday with the extreme mobility that he has as a defenseman, his scoring prowess, like all that stuff is just baked in to his game. And, the Canadians have Cale Makar, who's considered to be the best defenseman in the NHL. But, I mean, Quinn Hughes is right there, and he's got a case for being that guy, too. And then in Jack's case, I think his journey has been one of the most interesting things about this team, because you mentioned Four Nations before. They moved him from center to wing at Four Nations, and he looked lost, like he was physically overwhelmed. He couldn't find his offensive game. And then he comes and plays wing again in the Olympics, and he looks like Patrick Kane. Like, he's great. Like, he powered their fourth line through group play. They moved him up to play with Dylan Larkin and Tage Thompson in the game yesterday, and helped produce that Dylan Larkin goal. And so, I think for the Americans, he's probably been their best forward, at least offensively. Wow. And so the Hughes brothers should certainly get a little bit more shine than the Tkachuks, at least in this tournament so far.
So you bring up one name that I want to talk about, obviously being in Detroit and in the state of Michigan. We want to talk about Dylan Larkin, but first things first, Auston Matthews has been widely criticized by a lot of people, and I think it's mostly Toronto people, as the captain of this team. I thought what he did last night was very on the goal of on the goal of Quinn Hughes, where he just shifted positions just slightly off the right side of the ice to the left side, just in front of Hughes, that created a little bit of a lane. It's one of those little minute things in hockey that I think oftentimes go unnoticed, but not by people like you, of course, but it goes unnoticed. And I think it just gave a little bit more of a breathing room, a little bit of a room area for Quinn Hughes to take that shot and pick up the game winner. But Dylan Larkin has been arguably the heart and soul of this team. What's impressed you most about his play, even though he wasn't great, I think, in the first two games of the tournament?
Well, on Matthews, real quick, I thought it was funny that people were saying, and like by people, I mean Torontonians, were wondering if he should have the captaincy stripped from him for this tournament. And I'm just like, you want to cause a problem for yourself that you don't need to cause? Yeah. Like, why would you possibly create that discussion and that controversy and put that much stuff on one of your best players going into the tournament? It just made no sense to me.
Nobody's doing that to Sidney Crosby. Nobody in Pittsburgh saying that about Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, but also, like, it just becomes a big thing. It becomes a headache. It becomes like a point of controversy. I mean, we know that the Tkachuks are probably the ones that drive the bus anyway, but like taking the C off of Austin would have been like so self-defeating. But in Larkin's case, one of the things that I find fascinating about any high-level international tournament is which players come out of it getting us a brighter spotlight than maybe they had before. Ryan Miller won the Vezina because of how he played in Vancouver. TJ Oshie got on a box of Wheaties because of what he did.
Now he's got a TV gig. Yeah.
And now he's got a TV gig, right? Exactly. He's a coworker, for goodness sakes. But like for Larkin, I think a lot of people got their eyes opened as to how good he is in Four Nations, where he was arguably their best forward. And then he comes to the Olympics a little bit quiet in the earlier rounds, playing on what amounted to being kind of almost like a checking line for them. But then, comes up with easily their biggest goal of the tournament outside of Quinn Hughes' overtime winner with that tip home from the Hughes shot. Just a gorgeous goal. And again, like I just think it's in some ways, even though he's been in the league for a long time and is considered to be a star player, I think there's a new appreciation for him when you surround him with this all-world elite talent and see what he's capable of doing around it.
Not just that, but not just the goal, but the fact that he won the face-off, and he's been so good on face-offs, has been vital for them. Before we let you go, the second half of the season, or the post-Olympic part of the season, right around the corner next week, and there's still an opening for a trade deadline. What do you expect, if anything, to happen at the trade deadline, specifically with the Red Wings and the possibility of getting maybe another top six forward or another top-line defenseman pairing?
Yeah. I think the focus is probably going to be a forward. I think it's going to be developing into a bit of an arms race in the Eastern Conference, considering how bunched up these teams are. And you have, teams like Florida, obviously, that still believe they've got some upward mobility, especially if they get Barkov back at some point. But, it'll be an interesting trade deadline. It's weird. It's a weird season in the sense that we've had two trade deadlines, the one before the Olympics, where we saw Panarin moved, and then this next one. But considering the cap space that we now have in this league, it's hard to really figure out if that leads to more trades or fewer trades, because as we saw in the summer, a lot of teams just use that cap space to keep their own guys. So there may not necessarily be a lot of pressure points to move guys as much as there used to be. So I'm not sure what the action is going to be, but I do think Detroit will be in the market for help up front.
I would love a guy like Vincent Trocheck, or I'd love a guy like Dougie Hamilton on the back end. We'll see how they do, and let's hope they're involved. We always know you're involved. Thanks, Greg. We appreciate the time. Love the insight. Keep up the great work on ESPN.com, okay?
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Greg Wyshynski. You can follow him on Twitter at Wyshynski, giving us some hockey knowledge and some things that, again, a national guy kind of reaffirming, validating what we've believed. Quinn Hughes, second best defenseman in the world. I had a debate with one of my sons the other day, and he's a hockey buff. He loves hockey, right? He watches every game, right? It doesn't, even if the Red Wings aren't on, he's watching it. And he's like, I wonder if the Hughes brothers are a little overrated. And I went, what are you talking about?
That's putting chum in the water for Shep right there.
Yeah. He's like, well, Quinn Hughes, he's not a big guy. I said, who cares whether he's a big guy? You know what I care about? I care about how he plays. I said, watch him play. He's like, oh, I've watched him. I watch him all the time. I said, dude, he's the second best defenseman in the world. And I said, you also, I love Team USA's defense. I love it, man. I love Jacob Slavin. I love Zach Werenski. I like Quinn Hughes. There's so many different ways that they can play, and Charlie McAvoy and the physicality that he brings, even though I don't like the Bruins, all that stuff, right? But I said, Quinn Hughes is a standout player. Here's how you know. When you watch a game, and this is hard to do in baseball because it's basically one-on-one. Football, it's a lot of times obvious. You get the ball in Jahmyr Gibbs' hands, you're just like, oh, right? Amazing stuff. Quinn Hughes, he forces you to watch him because he's so good, because he's so smooth, and because he's so active. We got to get out of here. We're back with you tomorrow. Thank you for some of your time on a Thursday. It's always great to visit with you on a Tullymore Thursday. This hour has been brought to you by Avelo Air. Don't forget the huge show later on today. Have a great Thursday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 6.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit